Hey guys, it's Coach Herb. I just wanted to go over the assignment from yesterday, this Portuguese and Spanish exploration, and the assignment I called "They Started It" because we talked about yesterday and we viewed the video talking about how the Portuguese and Spanish really started exploration during this time, and so. I had you do some readings. You had to highlight the areas where you found the answers. Hopefully, you did those things. Otherwise, you won't get full credit for this assignment. But um, very simple annotation skill here to work with, but helping you to better understand where you got your answers from. Hoping you go back into the text and find those answers. So we'll go through these and we'll talk about the answers briefly and give you some insight on these ideas. But your first section was having you read about the sea route to Asia and how there was a lot of things motivating them. The first question alone asked, what are the three motivations for exploration? And they're right here, the three G's. We talk about gold, God, and glory. And you would have highlighted those and you'd have put them down here. What are the three motivations? Europeans wanted to find gold and riches. Trade by discovering products such as silks and spices. They wanted to spread Christianity to Native Americans and other people, and they just wanted to explore for adventure, for fame, for just to be known. They wanted to be famous for their discoveries. Now, the second one, why did explorers want to find a sea route to Asia? Well, this is where you have to go back up into the text, and as you read, it said explorers European rulers from the countries of Portugal, Spain, France, England, and the Netherlands wanted to increase their power by trading silks and spices found in Asia. So therefore, they had to find a sea route to achieve their goal. So that is why, and I highlighted that one there, and that's what I put as the answer. They wanted to increase their power by trading silks and spices. In what direction did the Spanish and Portuguese explorers sail? Well, the Portuguese went around Africa, down the coast of Africa, and then up into the Indian Ocean and eventually around to the other Asian islands and China and Japan, where Spain couldn't go down that track because the Portuguese, of course, were not just super friendly with them. And so they had to sail west across the Atlantic Ocean. And of course, that's where they run into the American continents. So, two different directions, east and west. Four, identify and explain the route sought by English, French, and Dutch explorers. They wanted to find something they had heard about as the Northwest Passage. Once that North America and these continents had been established, they felt like they could go north of North America or around it through what they would call the Northwest Passage. It was a Western Atlantic Sea route where they would go through the colder parts of the Atlantic Ocean. The problem is that it stayed frozen so much, which is answers number five. Were the English and French and Dutch explorers successful in finding this route? And the answer was no, and it was because the frozen waters did not allow them to pass through it. And so that was why the Northwest Passage didn't work. So the sea route was, something that was hopefully helping them become more rich, also expand their Christian values into the rest of the part of the world, and maybe be famous because they would become known for it. The search for new trade routes starts in Portugal, and that's what you read in this second little part here. It says, why did Portugal want to find a new route to China and India? Well, Portuguese traders did not have a port on the Mediterranean Sea, so they couldn't trade in those areas with the Ottomans and places like that, and they were having to pay lots of extra funds to trade with these people. And so these things stopped them from having the same routes as other Mediterranean nations, and they also wanted to get gold from West Africa. So they were trying to bypass the Ottomans, bypass those expensive prices there with the Mediterranean sea trade, and they also knew that West Africa had a lot of gold, so they were trying to get involved in that. Two, why is Henry the Navigator important? Well, Henry the Navigator was Prince Henry, the king's son, and he saw all the trade that was going on, and so he set up something called the School of Navigation in southwestern Portugal. At the school, astronomers, geographers, and mathematicians worked with sailors and shipbuilders. Eventually, they came together, and map makers made new maps, and when explorers returned with new information. So this was like an academy for sailing, and it led to the jumping off point of Portugal starting exploration sooner than everyone else. In the chart below, you were supposed to name 3 sailors from Portugal, and identify their signature achievements. Well, Bartholomew Diaz, he was known for sailing around the southernmost point of Africa, kind of showing that it was possible. Pedro Alvarez Cabral, he was his route took him far west, so far west that he ran into Brazil. I can tell you how far west he went. And eventually he went on to India and returned with spices and goods. But more than likely, this is his most important achievement. His signature one is discovering Brazil. And Vasco da Gama, he led the first voyage around the entire continent of Africa, and then eventually met an Indian pilot who guided him the rest of the way to India. Your fourth question there says, out of the 3 Portuguese explorers, which one do you think is the most important? Well, you just pick which one you feel like was the most important, and your opinion there must be supported by text evidence. Okay. The next reading is about Christopher Columbus, because the Spanish get involved too. They kind of see the Portuguese sailing and making all this money, and they want to make some money too. So Portuguese influenced the Spanish to get involved as much as possible. And so a lot of different things and talking about Christopher Columbus, but going over the assignment only, number 5 asks, how many voyages did Columbus make? And he made 4 in 1492, 93, 98, and 1502. And number 6, why did Columbus name the native people Indians? Well, he believed that he was in the East Indies near China, Indonesia, Philippines, that area. And because of that, he called them Indians. And he was wrong, of course, but it stuck. So his impact was huge. And so we know a good bit about his voyages because of his diaries. Further explorations would take place after Columbus, but the rivalry got so intense, and Spain and Portugal wanted to protect their claims, that they got the Pope involved, and he made a line down the center called the line of demarcation. And that is what formalized this was the Treaty of Tordesillas. Formalized the line of demarcation. Portugal would control lands east of the line. Spain would control lands west of that line, and they divided the entire unexplored world between them. And most people disregarded this idea completely, because we'll talk about it on Thursday. A lot of other people are going to get involved in exploration. Number 8, it was a critical thinking question. It said explorers from Spain and Portugal did not end up in their destinations they had planned. Do you think these voyages were successful despite their outcomes? For instance, Ferdinand Magellan was planning on going around the world, but he didn't make it. He died. Is he still considered successful? Well, that was, again, your choice. You had to make an argument. So your argument point was, were these people successful or not? And that's based off the information you read. And your evidence has to come from that. So, you may say, well, no, they weren't really successful. They didn't really gain anything for them. They didn't gain any land, and their lands would be taken from them many years later. Or you could say, yes, they were, because this led to them being famous, and that they gained a lot of money for the crown and all those different things. But your evidence has to be supported from details from the text. Okay? So make sure you have that as well. The last thing you would have read was about the conquerors, or what we would call the conquistadors, he who conquers. And you had to just read this information and then make another argument stem. So do you believe Spanish exploration was a success or a failure? And you use the table below to complete the critical thinking question. So your claim was, were they successful or not? Were the Spanish explorers successful or not? And then, again, you use evidence to support that. So you're just reading based off the conquistadors, so this is just based off the Spanish. Were the Spanish successful in what they wanted to do based off of the conquistadors and Christopher Columbus and those type of people? So when you are making these claims, make sure you have support from the text, multiple levels of support. Otherwise, this is not backed up by much. So you can claim successful or not, but you have to have support from the details. Okay. Hope this helps. I hope that you have a better understanding of what we were talking about after reading this and after viewing these videos. And if you don't, please send me an email, and I'll try to catch you up as best I can. If you have any problems, again, send me an email, and I'll help as much as possible. But But we'll see you soon and have a great day.